The basic processes of making steel have been around for thousands of years. Today's steelmaking still abides by those methods, but it is guided by sophisticated technology and precisely refined to create steel that is stronger and lighter than ever. You'll see what's involved along the way. These dust-minimizing coating over the material. The coal scrapers deliver the required recipe of coal to a conveyor that transports the coal to a stock bin above the coke oven battery. This battery contains several narrow oven chisets into each oven, where it bakes for about 18 hours. During this operation, coke oven gas is generated, collected, and cleaned for use as fuel throughout other steelmaking operations. Other chemical byproducts can be sold for a variety of uses. Serves as fuel for the blast furnace. While still red hot, coke is pushed out of the oven and is transported to be immediately quenched or cooled with water. The coke serves as the fuel to melt the iron. The melting limestone and dolomite float to the top of the heavier molten iron, carrying impurities with it and forming a layer of slag. Once the iron reaches the desired consistency, a hydraulic drill pierces through the furnace's tap hole to release the pure molten iron into steel. So before moving on to the steelmaking facility, the torpedo move on to the steelmaking facility. To begin this process, the torpedo car is rotated to pour the molten iron into a laid scrap steel. Scrap is delivered to a handling yard near the steelmaking facility so that it can be sorted. And just like coal, scrap comes furnace. Another crane loads the molten iron. Then, the furnace returns to an upright position and pure oxygen is injected from the top and bottom to melt and refine the mixture inside. After approximately 25 minutes, the initial operation is finished, and the steel then empties into a transfer ladle, which takes the steel to a ladle metallurgy facility. Here, steel samples are taken to determine if the properties are set to customer specifications. If necessary, alloys are added and mixed into the molten steel. If customers ladle into a ton dish, which allows the molten steel to enter continuous molds. As the steel travels through the molds, water cools the steel to allow the advancing strands to solidify. As the strands progress onto run-out tables to form slabs, they are then torch cut to various lengths, depending on customer specifications. And 30% scrap, an EAF furnace can be charged with 100% scrap or 70% scrap and 30% molten iron. The contents are melted down by a combination of oxygen, natural gas, and electricity delivered through large carbon electrodes. Each slab is labeled with a code that will identify it through to its completion as a coil. Slab haulers transport slabs to storage areas where they remain until they are scheduled into the operation sequence at the hot mill. When it comes time for a slab to be rolled at the hot mill, it is routed to a reheat furnace, which heats the slab to its optimum rolling temperature of approximately 1200 degrees Celsius in about 2.5 hours. The heated slab travels to a roughing mill, where it passes back and forth between rolls to reduce the thickness in increments. At pass, the steel strip passes through several stands, which contain, and each mill stand turns faster than the one before. With the strip now at its required thickness, it passes through a cooling section, where banks of water sprays cool the top and bottom of the strip. Specific water flow rates and application patterns develop different metal are now ready to be transported to outside customers or to downstream finishing operations. The coil's tight formation prevents damage and collapse during storage and makes for easier transportation. Hot coils are moved from the hot mill to storage yards by 80-ton coil carriers. From here, coils are either shipped directly to customers who use hot-rolled steel, or they move on to pickling and cold rolling or tube making operations. These finishing operations further refine and condition the steel for customers who require value-added steel products.